Sup peeps, how's it going? Dave here. What's that? Why is my voice so beautifully crisp and clear? I'll tell you why. It's because I have a lovely new microphone. So I hope that helps with hearing me and stuff. Anyway, today we have another Sentry Spot episode and we're looking at Barnblitz, a really popular map and one I enjoy very much. The format I've decided to use for these is, instead of going through every single spot, I'm just going to look at my favourites. So I hope you enjoy and I'll see you in the next episode. So let's start off by taking a look at the map. I'm going to break this down into 3 or 4 sections, and to begin with we're going to be focusing on the bottom part of this map. Now the control point is situated here, and the bad guys will be spawning in along the bottom here. Now a lot of people like to actually build in these 2 positions here and here, and they're really popular, but I'm not too keen on these. The reason being is the first one on the left is easy to flank round through that building, and the second one on the right is quite easy to spam from the left hand side of the map. Instead I like to build in the middle of these just here. It's situated just behind the hut, and it has a really good sight line to the far right spawn door, so that anyone coming out of there is immediately under pressure, and it also takes care of anyone taking the route round to the left. So let's take a look. So first thing I do is I put my dispenser just by that wall there, and put my sentry behind that shed so it's not visible from the gates directly ahead of it, and it's got equal prominence to both sides. I then put my teleporter just in that corner there by the rocks. I think in 1 or 2 occasions I've had the enemy not actually notice that telly, so it's a nice little spot for it. Once I'm set up to level 3, I'm just basically keeping an eye out and keeping my shotgun to hand and putting a little bit of pressure on the enemy. It usually isn't long until you're getting a lot of pressure yourself, so you kind of have to keep on top of your sentry gun. As you can see, anyone coming through the left door immediately shot at by the gun. It makes it really tricky for them to actually get out of that door and do any decent amount of damage on you. As they push the cart round to the right, again the sentry gun has a really good sight on them. Sometimes you get a demo man who actually figures out that, you know, if you're in the right spot you can spam pipes over the little shed. They just have to do that kind of blind, so it makes it a little bit tricky. But yeah, this normally shaves a couple of minutes off the timer, and I find it a good fun spot to play with. Moving a little bit further back now, sometimes you can set up another gun before they actually capture this first point, or before they push too far through. Now a lot of people build in this hut. It's a really great spot. There's various positions you can use. My favourite is just here. It has a good view outside the little doorway opposite, and it also has a good view down onto the cart. A spot I actually favour more when I'm kind of retreating from the very first spot I showed is actually here on the left, just by this slope. You get a little bit less pressure over here, so you can actually set up another level 3, and it has a really good cover of anyone coming up that slope or through that door. It's not obviously protecting the direct route of the cart, but the gun provides a pretty good support to the team, and it deals with anyone flanking around this route. Another spot I see people building at is just behind on this little surface here. Again, not one I favour. It's very easy to stand in the position I just talked about and shoot rockets or snipe across. I tend to find that it doesn't last too long. So let's take another look. So looking now inside this hut, what I do first is I put the sentry gun down just up that little slope, facing basically more towards the little doorway than the one underneath, because you find the best way to take this out as the opposing team is to basically peek out that doorway and spam it with pipes or rockets. So if it's facing that way, it means it makes it really tricky for them to do that. Anyone coming underneath has a much harder time taking it out anyway, so it's okay for it to take that second to turn around and shoot down there. Dispenser goes anywhere behind me really, and then telly just round the corner. It's doing a good job at taking out anyone who pokes around the doorway, and it's also covering the cart really well. And then when you're feeling more confident, you can actually go and explore around the corner yourself and take a few shots with the old shotgun. The spot I use more often though, and especially when retreating back from that very first spot I showed you, is just here at the top of this slope, just slightly to the right. It covers the corridor through that doorway to the left, and it covers the doorway to the right through that little building, and it basically looks over this slope really well. Even though I've only got it up to level 1 here, I'm able to take out that charging demo man as he comes up. Gradually you build it up to level 3, and then before you know it, it becomes really difficult for the team to come up that slope. therefore you're kind of blocking off an important flank route for them. I put the dispenser and teleporter in that corner there so it's out of the way, and then once I'm set up I can actually kind of lure the enemies in by taking pot shots at them. Eventually they can actually spam pipes from outside of its sight range, or perhaps you'll just get overwhelmed, but it seems to do a pretty good job for a fair little while. Okay, so let's move on to the next area of the map. It's kind of this indoor part. It provides for a really great place to hold. It's a great choke point. Here are the two control points, and this is where the enemies will be coming in. I like to set up just here, slightly more unusual. It prevents them using this flank route to the left to get up behind your base, because it looks directly down on them, and it still kind of covers the pathway of the cart just about as well. So let's take another look. As I head up these stairs, I immediately put a sentry gun down right on that corner there, looking directly towards the cart and as far forward as I can get it. I then put a dispenser just roughly behind me. I tidy that up a bit later. I'm in a bit of a rush here. As you can see, the sentry gun can see pretty far to the left there. It's kind of less expected than one just slap bang in the middle. Sometimes they miss it, as this medic did, it just went straight past. I build up to level 3, get a teleporter down somewhere, usually ideally to the right by that hay, and then once you're up to level 3, keep an eye out for spies and start shooting down onto the cart with your shotgun. One nice thing about this spot is you can actually block spies coming up those stairs. You can stand in this gap and then no spy can actually get past there without going all the way around. You can also actually put a dispenser behind you in that doorway to make you even more secure from spies. So yeah, it's doing a pretty good job of covering this flank route, as you can see. They can just about see it if they pop down that little hatchway and don't come any further forward, but that demo, you know, he's not being able to take it out very well. You can see them immediately and they normally aren't too much of a problem. Another spot that works well for me is on the other side, on the left here. I basically just don't use the middle, just because it means if they do come up that stairway to the right, a pyro or a demo has a decent chance of taking out your base. So moving forward now into this large open space, there are quite a few positions around here that you see people building in. The control point is in the middle here. Two spots I see people building a lot are here and here. I have never had much luck with either of these. The one on the left, the enemies see it as they come out of the tunnel and it doesn't actually have the range to reach them, so you have to use your wrangler, but they can take it out very easily. The one on the right, I've never had much luck with personally. The building opposite can spam it if a guy goes around there, so yeah, it's not one for me. A spot that's quite popular, but I do actually enjoy myself as well, is on this roof here. Not too far forward where most people build, actually further back, more defensively, so it shoots down onto the cart from behind as it passes by, and it's a great place to teleport your team in. A couple of other interesting spots, more aggressive, probably won't last too long, but are still a lot of fun, are here on the left kind of snowy shelf thingy-majiggy. It looks over the cart quite nicely and it covers that route in to the left. Another one is on this little wooden area here. Again, really aggressive. I've had one or two good games here, but it can be a lot of fun to try out. One last spot to quickly mention is actually within this complex here. Obviously this doesn't cover the cart at all, but it can be a great place to teleport your team in. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into the game. So this first spot I was actually quite skeptical about for a while, and I tried it recently and moved the sentry further back and I did really well. You can see the spam coming in already from the demo man, but because it's so far back, they either don't know it's there or they aren't able to hit it. So the sentry gun goes kind of against that wall as far back as possible, and just make sure that that window opposite is not within its sight line. That's kind of important. If it is, then it's a soldier or a sniper who's going to be taking it out very easily. Once it's set up, dispenser in the corner and teleporter just around the back there. I'm kind of sticking in this corner, so as people push the cart round, it shoots down on them, and if anyone pokes in through this doorway behind me, I can actually get really aggressive onto them with my shotgun, and then the sentry can also back me up. So here I'm being spammed by the demo man. He knows I'm up here, but because he can't see it, he's finding it very difficult to take it out, and as long as I keep on top of it, I should be able to keep it healed up. I'm just running backwards and forwards, keeping an eye on that route from behind, because that's going to be the main threat really, if anyone comes through there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun building here, and I'm going to continue to stress test this one. The second one I mentioned was on this surface here. I just put it in between that gap there and put my dispenser in that corner. It's a nice idea to put your teleporter just at the back there. Even if you don't have an entrance yet, you might be able to keep that there for later. So yeah, as you can see, it's shooting down onto the cart quite nicely. It's a little bit of an unusual one, so people don't expect it, but as this doorway opens to the right, it's probably not going to last too long, so you can't be too precious about it. But it's, again, lots of fun to build here. The other one I mentioned was on this surface here. First thing I do is I put that dispenser down behind me and then just put the gun as far forward as I can. I usually have it covering the window and then obviously the entrance through which the cart's going to come. I have had some luck here, but already I'm being attacked from that window and it can be a bit of a nuisance and it can be fairly easy to take out. But once or twice I had a good game here. You just got to really keep on top of your sentry. I've tried pulling it a bit further back, but still it's mainly that window. If the team aren't going that route through that window at the top, then it can last a bit longer. But yeah, another good one to have a play around with. So yeah, if you do want to try out this last one, I recommend building on this stairway, just right on the corner there, as far forward as you can get it. It means anyone coming up the stairs out there have a really hard time coming up. It takes them out really easily. It's actually a good spot for covering this indoor area. It's just important that obviously you get that telly up behind you, because there's not much point of you being in here, otherwise they can just push right on past. Here a fully buffed heavy comes up the stairs. The gun immediately shoots down on him and I'm still able to take him out. So as long as you've got a working telly up, it can be good fun to build in here. Moving on to the last part of the map now, and the very last control point, which is situated here. Obviously we can't see into this room, so I'm just going to draw on the two shelves either side with a red line here and here. Now a lot of people like to build just by the spawn here. This actually can be tricky to take out for the enemy, but it's not one I like to use very often. One position I really like to use is actually on this shelf just here. Now you have to really start setting up early to be able to get a level 3 up in time, but if you do, it can be really awesome. It kind of suits my playstyle. It's very active, and if you're being rolled, then it's not going to last long. But if it's a close game, it can be a lot of fun building here. The sentry gun covers both the top routes, and if the cart comes under it, obviously takes care of that too. The second spot is on the shelf opposite. Again, you're going to have to get here pretty early to set up in time. But yeah, again, this sentry gun covers both top routes as well. It's quite vulnerable to being attacked from the bottom flank route, so you kind of have to keep on top of that, and it's useful to have a telly up here too. The final spot, you can build it in several places on the ground floor or what have you, but there's one or two spots I like to use. The first one is on top of the boxes just underneath the shelf here. It's a little bit gimmicky, but as a demo man main, I find it difficult to hit this one because it's actually above the floor, so if I miss with my pipes, they roll on harmlessly by. As a soldier or as a sniper, it's probably a bit easier, but it's kind of an interesting one to use. So yeah, let's take a look in the game. So yeah, what I'm doing here is I'm putting my sentry gun kind of facing halfway between the two directions, because you're really going to be attacked from both sides here, and that's what kind of makes this place a lot of fun to use and kind of interesting. So immediately I've got it up to level 3 and already I'm being attacked, but I'm pretty much able to defend them off. I tend to put my dispenser just in that corner there, really useful to do that so you can kind of keep your sentry gun healed up. Once you're set up, I continuously look down those stairs behind me. Anyone coming up, you can shoot them in the face a couple of times, and it really slows them down, because you've come all the way from spawn. If you're going to get that much damage done to you, you're going to retreat probably, and then if they don't, then usually the sentry gun will finish them off. You do tend to have people on the balcony opposite who are able to get some shots onto your sentry gun, but it is difficult because it does look over most of the area over there, so it's actually a tricky one to take out, but obviously a decent team will probably do it quite easily. But yeah, a lot of fun to use this one, and it'll keep you on your toes. This second one is a similar kind of deal. It's on the balcony opposite the one we just looked at. Dispenser I put just by those lockers there, and then teleporter a little bit further back. Once I'm set up, it's all about making sure this stairway behind you is really well covered. Luckily I've got some revenge shots here, so I'm making pretty light work of these scouts. But yeah, I've tried various places. Still working on, where the sweet spot is. Here a demo man sneaking up behind, taking a few shots at him, and luckily I have a team member to kind of back me up. Anyone coming in by the cart, it can reach them quite well. And anyone coming in opposite on the top floor, it does reach there too, but again, you might get a soldier poking in around that corner, so you've got to be careful and just keep on top of your sentry gun. So yeah, it's the same kind of deal. You're kind of having to fight two fronts and be really active, but these are the kind of spots that make it really fun to actually play this class. The last spot I'll talk about is one I use when things are getting a little bit more desperate, shall I say. I tend to build my sentry gun behind these boxes, so as they're pushing into this last point, they don't actually see them. Hopefully my team will distract the enemy while I get it up to level 2 or 3 or what have you. If I do get a chance, I like to play around with putting the sentry gun on top of this box here. Like I said, it's slightly trickier to destroy from rollers from demo men. But yeah, it doesn't make too much difference. You can just build it around one of the corners if you're playing really defensively. Another spot I like to use is actually on the stairs in that corner. Usually it's just a good idea to keep it moving around. If it gets destroyed, try another spot. I tend to stick to the left hand side of this area here. I find that slightly better for some reason. But yeah, anywhere around here is probably good, and it's always good having kind of a last resort spot to use when things are getting a little bit hairy. This is the other one I talked about in the corner by these stairs. It means if they're pushing through, usually your team, not in this case, but usually your team would be by the spawn gates, so they'll be focusing in on them. They push the cart past and then they get shot from behind by the sentry gun. So even like a level 1 or mini sentry can do a decent amount of work in this spot. So there's some of my favourite sentry spots on Barnblitz. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.